History remembers the headlines, we find the bylines. This is the Unsung. In the heart of the Austrian Alps, a lone forest warden, Viktor Schauberger, looked at the world and saw something everyone else had missed. While humanity raced towards progress fueled by explosive power, the internal combustion engine, the blast furnace, the bomb, he made a radical claim. We had it all backwards. Explosion, he argued, is the way of destruction. Nature's way, the path of creation, is implosion. An inward spiraling, life-giving vortex. Look closely at a river. See the whirlpools, the eddies, the subtle twists and turns. This isn't chaos. This is water's secret language, a dance of energy that holds the key to a different kind of technology, a different kind of future. Born in 1885, Viktor Schauberger came from a long line of foresters. He didn't have a formal university education. His university was the untouched wilderness of the Austrian mountains. He spent countless hours, days, and years simply watching. He watched trout hold their position effortlessly in the strongest currents, seemingly leaping upstream with impossible energy. He noticed that water in natural shaded streams was coldest and densest at its core, precisely at 4 degrees Celsius, the point of its greatest vitality. He saw that water, when allowed to flow in its natural, meandering, spiraling path, remained pure, cool, and full of life. But when forced into straight concrete channels and exposed to direct sunlight, it became sick, stagnant, warm, and lifeless. From these meticulous observations, he began to formulate what he called the laws of nature. He believed modern engineering, with its straight lines and reliance on friction and heat, was fundamentally at odds with the living world. His first great practical success came from this insight. Tasked with transporting logs from a remote, high-altitude forest, conventional methods were deemed impossible. Schauberger, however, built a log flume unlike any other. It wasn't a straight chute. It twisted and turned, mimicking the natural flow of a mountain stream. He even controlled the water temperature, introducing cooler water at specific points. The result was astonishing. Logs that would normally get stuck or sink were carried effortlessly for miles, riding a central, spiraling current, barely touching the sides of the flume. It was a triumph of observation over brute force. He had unlocked the carrying power of a vortex. Buoyed by this success, he turned his attention to revitalizing drinking water, creating egg-shaped devices designed to swirl water into a vortex, re-energizing and restructuring it, claiming it could restore its natural vitality. To the scientific establishment of his day, this was nonsense. Water was just H2O, a simple chemical compound. Schauberger's talk of living water, energy, and implosion sounded more like mysticism than science. He was dismissed as an eccentric, a charlatan, an uneducated crank from the woods. But his ideas, as unconventional as they were, began to attract attention from more powerful and far more dangerous corners. As the 1930s drew to a close and the shadow of the Nazi regime lengthened over Europe, Schauberger's work on implosion energy caught their interest. He was initially courted, then coerced. The man who loved the quiet forest was now forced to work for a war machine. He was summoned to meet Adolf Hitler, and later, during the war, was conscripted into the SS and ordered to work on secret projects under the threat of his family's safety. He was tasked with developing new forms of energy and propulsion. This period of his life is shrouded in secrecy and conflicting accounts. Diagrams from this time show concepts for so-called flying discs that purportedly used vortex principles to generate lift, and powerful turbines that would create energy through implosion rather than explosion. He claimed to have built prototypes that worked, but sabotaged them to prevent them from being used as weapons. When the war ended, the nightmare wasn't over. Schauberger was debriefed and held by American intelligence forces, who were eager to understand his work for the Nazis. He was taken to the United States in the 1950s by a corporate consortium that promised to fund his research. But he soon realized they weren't interested in his vision of ecological harmony. They wanted to patent his ideas for their own profit. He felt trapped, his life's work being twisted into the very destructive commercial paradigm he had fought against. Broken in spirit and health, he signed away all his patents and research in exchange for a plane ticket home to Austria. He died just 5 days after his return in 1958, a profoundly disillusioned man. He famously said, "They took everything from me. Everything. I don't even own myself." So, was Viktor Schauberger a misunderstood genius or a pseudoscientific mystic? Mainstream science largely landed on the latter. His writings were often poetic and lacked the rigorous mathematical formulas that conventional physics demanded. He described forces and energies that had no place in the standard model. Yet, decades after his death, his core principles are echoing in some of the most advanced fields of science and engineering. His fundamental idea of observing nature and mimicking its strategies is now the central pillar of a burgeoning field called biomimicry. When architects design buildings with ventilation systems modeled on termite mounds to reduce energy consumption, that's Schauberger's philosophy at work. When engineers create turbine blades inspired by the shape of whale fins for greater efficiency, they are following in his footsteps. His warnings about the destructive consequences of clear-cutting forests, straightening rivers, and treating water as a mere commodity now seem prophetic in our age of climate crisis, droughts, and ecological collapse. We are beginning to understand, the hard way, the truths he saw so clearly in the flow of a simple mountain stream. Viktor Schauberger's legacy is not found in established textbooks or celebrated in university halls. It exists in the quiet hum of a well-designed turbine, in the growing movement for ecological restoration, and in the minds of those who dare to look at the world and ask if there is a better, more harmonious way to live within it. He remains an unsung prophet of sustainable engineering, a powerful reminder that sometimes the most profound innovations come not from institutions, but from a patient, loving observation of the natural world. He saw the world differently, and perhaps the world is finally starting to catch up. History is full of figures who were dismissed in their own time. To discover more stories of the unsung heroes and forgotten innovators who shaped our world, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.